Hi guys, so this is going to be a forecast reading. It's going to be for the full moon in Gemini we just had recently, and the forecast is going to last kind of from the energies of that transit kind of kickstarting a momentum going until the winter solstice basically. And either this video or the next video for the winter solstice is going to be the last video I do for season 2 of Azure Flame Tarot, as I've been saying. Just because, it's the end of the year, starting a new year, and I've been feeling for quite a while like I've been needing a change in direction. So this is just the announcement. You can look at the timestamps. I'm going to put timestamps so you can see when the reading starts with the cards. I'm going to talk a little bit about, just right before I pull some cards, I'm going to talk about the significance of Mars retrograde being conjunct the moon that we just had and what that means going forward into the winter solstice. However, I wanted to make this announcement first because as some of you might know, if you saw my announcement that I wrote out for the community post, and I've been talking to friends on Discord and other places, my grandmother died last month, November 11th, and it kind of made me feel like life's too short, you know what I mean? Tess was my last grandparent. I don't have any grandparents left. And this was not the only loss I've experienced in the last just couple of years alone, let alone since basically high school. A lot of people have died who I cared very much about. And so this is well over a decade now because I've graduated high school way back. And so that was a hard thing for me to go through. I'm still kind of grieving that because she wasn't just the last grandparent I had left. She was my favorite grandparent. And she was wonderful to me. She was this kick-ass Scorpio woman who, believed in the possibility of aliens. And she was Catholic, but she was also very spiritual and very open-minded about the tarot I was doing that I told her about. She found that very fascinating and interesting. And she and my mom have always been very encouraging of me looking into other, kind of this spiritually open-minded, eclectic way of seeing the world. And to lose her was very difficult. I'm still kind of reeling from that a bit, and I think I need to give myself a break from doing this just to process that grief, for one thing. And the other thing was I wasn't really getting out of doing this channel what I was hoping to by now. I did get really important things out of it. This is still a very important channel to me, and I'm not necessarily permanently closing it down. You'll probably never see me do a full scheduled release type of season 3 of Azure Flame Tarot. That's probably, for the now, I don't see that happening in the foreseeable future for me. If a really important transit comes up where I just feel really called to spiritually go out there and put a video out there, regardless of who sees it, just to put it out there, I will. But for now, I just don't feel like doing these scheduled releases for all of these lunar transits is the best way for me to utilize my time around the lunar phases, because I'm a very lunar oriented person in my birth chart, just as a person, even regardless of that. And I feel like I need to focus more on me instead of the community during those times, just for myself and my loved ones, and just focus on, I've been trying to juggle dealing with personal things and releasing and healing from grief and a whole lot of stuff going on during these times on top of doing this. And my purpose for doing this was in part to offer these free spiritually guided readings, but also to kind of steer people towards my servers, my Etsy shop, and just kind of see where things go if I can do that independently and make a significant enough consistent income, that I can use that to both have a spiritual community that is consistent and a consistent customer base, that I can take care of my basics and then focus on investing in creative pursuits that I'm passionate about, that no matter what kind of work I've done, I've always struggled to have the time for, or if not the time, then the energy. And with the grief I just experienced, that's just another hit to how lively I'm feeling. And that's been going on for a couple of months now, really, because we kind of knew it was coming for her, my grandmother. But anyway, this is a bit of a personal thing. You can fast forward this if you don't want to see it. I don't put this out here just because I know a lot of people just, they've got their own problems. They probably don't care. I'm putting this out there just as like a, here's what's going on. One of the other reasons why I'm kind of putting this on hiatus for a while is because I've been having some online communications problems that predate my even starting this channel. Having to deal with people who've meddled with my personal life, aside from just my business. I had to deal with, trigger warning, I've had to deal with people sending unsolicited genitalia pictures, calling up the hotline that I work for doing tarot, and doing the same, and just overall, and trying to get that personal information from me and from us, and just all sorts of nasty stuff. And maybe it was a little too bold of me to start this channel while I was still dealing with that. I guess at first, at the time, I thought that was wrapped up and I wasn't going to have to deal with that again. And then it continued not long after I started this channel. And I just kept going. I had some success, actually. This and the hotline were both growing at first. I think the Ukrainian war and the inflation we've all been seeing has impacted everybody. I know that not very long after that happened, my main customer base for my Etsy shop started telling me that they couldn't afford to do regular readings. And it was like, okay, well, I get it. This is not... there are a lot of ways to get spiritual guidance that don't include paying for a reading, and I understand that. I think I offer a better quality reading because I'm very trained. I've been doing this for very many years, and the people who have left reviews on my shop basically say the same, that they've gotten insights that they wouldn't have got if they didn't come to me. So I feel I got some really important growth out of this. I still feel that this is a very spiritually significant thing that I've done for myself through doing this, but it hasn't really enabled me to have that forward trajectory that I was hoping to have in terms of being able to supplement and invest in my dreams through doing this. Because I've done, obviously other types of work that isn't as independent and different as this. At least this was spiritually fulfilling and running into the same kind of dead ends. You know what I mean? I'm excited what this, putting this on hiatus and focusing on other things means for me, being able to explore other options. And I think it's I can already kind of feel it steering me in a more positive direction. That was one factor, but it wasn't the only factor. My family and I have been dealing with other things as well. My grandmother has been slowly deteriorating for a couple of years now, actually. So we kind of knew this was coming, and it is what it is. I miss her a lot. And I think her passing just reaffirms for me that I need to focus on not wasting my time with anything. And this hasn't been a waste of time in a spiritual sense, because every reading I've done has felt significant for me. And it's been significant to people in the community who've said that it almost felt like a personal reading for them. But it just hasn't been what I needed it to be for myself. And so going forward, I'm going to see how I can fit something like this into, it's always been a part of my spiritual journey. Unfortunately, with these sorts of things, I've always tried to focus on the spiritual and educational side of things when I do this, with very minimal entertainment slipped in, some humor and just, being human. But I think maybe with a modality like YouTube, a bit more entertainment is expected, maybe some more answering people's personal questions for free through a YouTube reading. I think a lot of people are looking for answers for their personal love life questions and career questions without all of the extra spiritual explanation. And I don't mind doing that, if somebody's paying for a reading, but I don't usually do that for free, which is why I focus on these community readings that I think offer spiritual value and guidance that answer some questions broadly and touch on spiritual subjects that can kind of help you orient yourself. But I feel like a lot of people kind of want something different out of it, and it's not what I feel comfortable providing for free on YouTube, because I've given it a try with some of my previous videos. You can see that, and I don't feel like it was rewarding for me personally. So that was a bit of a lot of explanation, and that's just like the tip of the iceberg with everything else going on. My family traveled out of state when we went to the funeral last month, and since we got back, we've all kind of been dealing with like coughs and all sorts of stuff. It is that time of year, and I'm just like, maybe this is a sign, because every time I pull myself away from doing the video, oh my goodness, I start to feel like I'm recovering. And when I start like stressing over what it is I want to say, I start feeling like the coughing coming back on and stuff. And I'm just like, oh, for goodness sake, this is stressing me out. It's burdening my immune system. But when I'm focusing just on me and what's making me feel happy and just kind of what's helping me recover from the grief I just experienced and everything, I start to feel like I'm recovering from feeling sick. So I'm just like, that's a sign to me that I need to put this tarot stuff, at least the public videos, for a while on the back burner. So yeah, I love that I did this. I think, I don't regret that it was a bold decision to do this, even while I was dealing with some, like a time waste to keep doing this. And I haven't really seen, this was never about getting a whole ton of YouTube views and becoming a YouTuber tarot doer. It would have been nice to be able to access certain tools that only people who have YouTube partnerships can now access, because I think that would have helped me from a business perspective. But, this was always about getting people, posting on servers and posting on my Instagram, drawing people to my shop, having personal conversations with people after these readings, and seeing about doing personal readings for people, because that's what I really love to do. I like to work with customers who mesh well with me, and I've had some of that. When I first started this, I had some of that, and I was really happy about that. And then inflation started going up and people couldn't afford my readings personally anymore. And I just said to myself, I can already see that this is not going to go the way I hoped it would. And it was never something I thought was going to be like a permanent, like this is going to be my main career thing. I always felt that this was going to be something I did in addition to the other things I wanted to do. And just, I didn't feel like having on certain lunar transits that this would take up too much of my time. But trying to network online has been very time consuming for me. And just trying to like strategize and think about how can I do this, and without the kind of, to have the kind of cyber nonsense that I've had to deal with, you really need a really strong support team, and not just like people who say, oh yeah, I loved the reading that you did for me that I bought, and family members who say, oh, I think that's incredible, oh wow, this reading was so cool, good for you. But like having people who are really dedicated and willing to like partner with you and get something out of it too, and help you out in terms of networking, because to do it all by myself felt kind of overwhelming. And I don't know. I've had people like on the new server I made about a month ago offer to do moderation and whatnot, but we haven't really been getting the amount of invites that we need to start populating the server in order to have like a good directory of tarot and other divination workers that I was hoping to have. Every time I've gotten a few new members, some of those people were clearly part of that cyber nonsense group. I'm just going to call them that for now because this wasn't the most useful thing for me from a business perspective. From a spiritual perspective, it continues to be very important. I look back on the old readings and I say, yeah, that turned out to be spiritually significant. That happened this way. And oh, now I understand what that meant. What I meant when I said that, when I channeled that message from the divine, because this is divination, right? It should first and foremost be about messages from the divine. And maybe that was my mistake because other people have been able to make a really successful business model out of that. But maybe for me specifically, it was always supposed to just be something I do just for strictly spiritual purposes. And maybe it just isn't a terrific business model for me personally. And maybe I can go back to focusing on languages and teaching and writing and music and creative stuff and see if I can fit that in somehow in my life. But I've rambled on long enough. I'm going to go ahead and start talking about the full moon in Gemini we just had, conjuncting Mars retrograde. That is, again, a pretty personally significant transit for me because it just is. I'm not even going to go further into it because I don't need the cyber nonsense crowd digging into my personal life and further than they already have. But it's significant for me personally. It's significant for my partner personally. He knows who I'm talking about. And, I'm leaving it up to him to decide when he's ready to come out about that. Yeah, it's significant for me. And I think it's significant on a collective level because during Virgo and Libra season, we were talking about different forms of duality. Gemini is, of course, another form of duality, but instead of that balancing of, the scales of justice, right and wrong, different people's needs, with Virgo, it was a bit of the dark and light. The internal nervous system processes, the subconscious, how the mind talks to itself and how you communicate to others, the face that you present to the world. Gemini is a little similar to Virgo in that respect, but there's a bit more of a social context to it. It's you and community. So there's whereas Virgo is about, 6th house energies, the workplace a bit, this is going back to the family. This is going back to childhood, inner childhood wounds, and the student-teacher dynamic, right? Because we talked about that a bit with one of the Sagittarius transits we had as well. How, Sagittarius is the teacher, while Gemini is the student. So this is kind of coming full circle, right? You've gained the wisdom, and then you find out, because the wheel always turns and you come back to the same position eventually, that you thought you knew so much, and you do now compared to before, but there's always more to find out. There's always more to learn about yourself. There's always more growth to happen. And so you're in that childlike growth phase. With Mars retrograde, when we had Mercury retrograde, it was going inward about our thought processes, and that was happening around Virgo season as well. With Mars retrograde, we're talking about reflecting about our immediate knee-jerk reactions, what we think our instincts are, and just kind of questioning how we kind of navigate the world, how we automatically react to things from a place of anger or even passion, and how we physically, not just with the body, but in terms of like the space we take up, integrate with the world, where we feel we've carved out our own niche and our own I guess you could even say sanctuary in the world, because the flip side of war is peace, right? And we tend to associate that with Venus, but those are, you know, two planets that are part of that duality. And we're talking about Gemini here. We are with Mars retrograde in Gemini up until January, I think it was 12th or 13th. And then the moon was also in that sign of Gemini. So you're blending those masculine and feminine energies. I will go ahead and say it then, because for me and for a lot of my loved ones, Moon-Mars contacts within the natal chart are very common. So that tends to describe difficulties in childhood. I feel like for a lot of people, even if you don't have that in your natal chart, those are going to be themes that you're going to be looking into. Even if you feel like you had a really blissful childhood, we all had some difficult moments during that time that shaped us, even before the difficult moments we experienced in adulthood. Maybe it was the death of one of your grandparents when you were younger, or something like that, or a bully you had to deal with. You're going to be digging into, whether you intend to or not, life around you during a transit period like this, kickstarting with the moon conjuncting Mars retrograde and going for the rest of this Mars retrograde period, honestly, even past the solstice, but I think culminating during the solstice as well. You're going to be, even if you're not consciously thinking about it, you're going to be forced to feel triggered, dealing with some of those childhood wounds. And it's an opportunity to face that and clear it out, and do it a bit differently this time. Maybe stand up for yourself better. Maybe handle things more compassionately and patiently, depending on the context of what you're dealing with and what your own situation was. That all being said, I think I've rambled on pretty long, so I'm going to go ahead and start with the cards now, and I always do a little knock, because that just helps. Doing it twice, why not? And let's just see what the cards have to say about this transit for full moon in Gemini and Mars retrograde in Gemini. I felt like that wanted to come through. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what I felt like it wanted to come out. Yeah. I kind of had a feeling this would happen. You know, I think I'm just going to take from the back. Okay, that's nice to have 4 of Wands as well. Sorry, I did warn that I was having some coughing going on. Okay, so I'm going to also pull a second thing of tarot cards and then some Lenormand cards and then the Moonology at the end of this. But I'll just start with something that I already see here. First of all, truth. So when you're dealing with that forced feeling of, you know, the circumstances around you kind of forcing you to face things, that's truth, right? The Ace of Swords, I always think immediately of cutting through the nonsense, cutting through the BS, getting to the truth of things. And the truth of things for a lot of people, I think, is that this is a lot lighter than this, right? This is a being who is flying higher above. You know, there's a blur going on in the background. You can hardly see what's going on because they're flying faster, right? Swords are faster. And then the wands in tarot. And in this case, you've got 10 wands. That's a big bundle he's carrying. You can see the city in the background. It's not as much of a blur. It's something feeling like it's slowing you down because it's weighing you down, right? That's what I think is going on for a lot of people. Feeling slowed down because something is weighing you down. And with wands, specifically what's weighing you down is a feeling of anger, resentment, feeling like the things you're passionate about are too far out of reach, feeling like no matter what you do, because Mars is about action, the obligations and responsibilities and problems keep piling up. And of course, at the end of that, we see the Nine of Swords, which is always about these nightmares. We have the moon in here as well, the cage. keep in mind that the swords are the mind, the thoughts, not the body, that is the wands, not the physical reality of the pentacles. This is what you're thinking. This is how you're perceiving. This is what you're seeing around you. And what I'm seeing with these two next to each other is the possibility of a choice between these two. Because this felt like it was going to be the back of the deck, but then I saw this at the back of the deck. So I feel like this is like the choice between these two. So your prior context is you're facing some truth. And that leads you to reflect on this present moment of feeling burdened by something that's not quite going the way you had hoped or that you wanted. Or maybe a lot of things are going really well for you, but you're just having to heal something that went unacknowledged for a while so that things can be even better. And then you have a choice. You can choose to stay in this despair, or you can choose to start fresh, start anew. Page is the youngest court card. It corresponds to the Fool card of the major arcana, the first card. So a whole fresh new beginning in terms of how you think, the mind, because it's the swords. And I would say for that thought process to be based on truth, right? And we even see some emotion here with the roses. I don't see any roses in the rest of these. We see a waxing moon here. So even this is about, you know, that new start of the waxing moon kind of being behind these swords. It's like if you can get past this despair, there's still this new this new start waiting for you. You just kind of got to clear the clouds and the swords away. And even this cage, there's nothing in that cage. You're thinking about the cage. You think that you're trapped, but you're not. There's nothing in that cage. You're not in that cage. You have choices. And we have this skull here that reminds me of the death card. It's about letting go of past, you could call it karmic or whatever you want to call it, just negative cycles of the same lessons repeating themselves to the point that it feels toxic because you haven't moved forward. But you can. That new start is waiting for you with that waxing moon. You're not trapped in the cage. And there, you've got the Page of Swords here. And with the Ace of Swords here, we're seeing the element of earth with the wreath. We're seeing like the World card and justice energy. And we also see this rose. That's the heart chakra. That's the emotions. You know, it's the color of red, the color of the root chakra as well, a sense of security and safety. You know, it mixed in with that passion. And it's like you're better able to access this passionate, happy, loving, safe, secure side of yourself, stable, just, feeling like everything's fair and right. When you acknowledge the truth about things, even when it's difficult, even when you think other people are going to judge you, even when you think, oh, it's too hard to start anew. I've already put so much into all of this, but all of this that you've put into it has become a burden. I think a lot of people are feeling like it's really time for a new beginning. And even just on a collective level, even if your personal life hasn't been going too bad, you've probably noticed, you know, since the pandemic hit, even you could argue since some of the past elections, and I'm not saying that to be particularly political. I don't even get involved with elections anymore because I think they're so bogus. But, you know, some people are very passionate about elections, regardless of whether you care a lot about them or not. I think we all kind of, whether we are particularly political people or not, we noticed that around the last couple of elections, really this whole beginning of the 21st century has been one odd event after another, and it's just kind of gotten a little bit worse. And I think we're all kind of feeling like, for crying out loud, when does the positive change happen? And the truth is that the positive change happens when you acknowledge the truth in yourself. You know, what role do you have to play to make things change in the life around you? What role do your loved ones have to play? You know, if you are noticing systemic problems, to what extent do you contribute or enable or tolerate it? You know? And that's not to say that anybody should, you know, throw themselves under the bus or in front of the bus or anything like that. I get that sometimes standing up, you feel like you can get hammered down for being the lone voice in the room, or, you know, the power structures that be are too powerful. I get it. But you can choose that misery, or you can choose that fresh start for yourself. You can choose to be bold and to try. I think that's all any of us can do. And ultimately, you have to weigh the decision. What cost are you willing to pay to live an authentic and passionate and happy life, regardless of what other people think, regardless of what your access to, what other people consider normal is. I'm going to go ahead and I will say that when you come out on top of this and you figure out what this choice is for yourself, you resolve this burden, you work that out, and you focus on the truth, there is this Four of Wands waiting for you. The 4 is the same number as the Emperor, so that's having not necessarily just power over the others, but most specifically, especially with the 4 of Wands, mimicking that energy, we're talking about power over yourself and your immediate surroundings, your own passions and joy. We see a loving couple in most iterations of the 4 of Wands, a happy family, the security of having, 4 stable walls to rely on, your home. We even see like these lilies here, so that's remembrance. I would say, I think those are lilies, hard to say. And we see like a fountain as well in the background. So that's, and with lotuses, that's like overflowing love and overflowing joyful emotions, overflowing cleansed emotions, because constantly moving water is more clean. And, those lotus flowers are a symbol of purity as well. So having the heart area purified after coming out on top of this, we see even the pink and purple colors here. So being able to see with your third eye more clearly, being able to feel with your heart with clearer emotions. So there's so much positivity waiting for you out on the other side of this. That's the back of the deck energy. That's the hidden energy, right? The shadow. And shadow doesn't always just mean dark things. It just means things that aren't as obvious because they're not as solidly formed, right? You don't see it yet, but it's there. It's there as a potential. It's there as the light that you're casting right now. It's the shadow that's cast as an afterthought. It's something that's possible. It's something that radiates underneath. It's something that exists in the subconscious as a potential, as an undercurrent. So this is what's just kind of waiting. It's knocking on your door, waiting to be manifested. And it's like, what's standing in the way of that? This burden that you don't have to carry, truth that you don't have to hide from yourself, and despair that you don't have to accept as the only possible truth because there is another path, another option for you. Honestly, I feel like that might even be as much as I need to say with the tarot, but I'll pull some clarification cards because I already planned this deck anyway. The Dream Angel, right? And the Lovers is what I opened up to. So there's your 4 of Wands, being able to work on your relationships and your dreams in a way that is fulfilling for you. Okay, let's see. I feel like that wants to come through. Huh, interesting. It's like the same shape energy. And we get the scarab beetle, which is reminding me of this this crow skull over here. Okay, that wants to come out. The Moon Chariot. We get another waxing moon here. Priestess of Dreams. So it's the High Priestess. And let's see. Do I just want to take immediately from the back? Okay, the Master of Secrets. Oh my God, I love when that happens. Oh, I love when that happens. And I'm kind of being like reminded of the Light of the Two Trees from Lord of the Rings, because I've been looking into the Silmarillion and all that stuff again lately. So we have like a warmer golden colored fiery energy coming out of this tree, and a almost solar energy. She's wearing like very solar colors, and then like a moon in the background. So we're talking about balance here, that duality I was talking about with Gemini, the masculine and feminine coming together. The moon being a feminine symbol and Gemini being within a masculine sign. Mars and moon being conjunct. There's your masculine and feminine coming together as well. Gemini itself, even though it's technically classified as masculine, has always been considered a very mercurial, kind of more, out of all of the signs and all of the planets, Mercury being the most androgynous, the most blending of the two. And I'm kind of seeing even here, like, it's like she's dancing between these two and kind of blending that energy together, almost alchemically. And it's interesting because that same light comes out of that tree and it's blaring through the roof of this cavern or cave that he's in, where he has his altar set up. So we have the magician and the high priestess together here, which is wonderful. I love when those two cards come together. A lot of people will say that the priestess and the hierophant are the masculine and feminine counterparts. I can see that kind of. I see the hierophant and the devil as more being two sides of the same coin, whereas the magician and the high priestess, I feel, are more two sides of the same coin, that masculine and feminine combination of energy, Virgo and Pisces. To my mind, Gemini and Cancer. And then we have Cancer here as well. And I know I'm going to kind of ignore the decans for a moment because I'm feeling a very scorpionic energy, just because I'm seeing the scarab beetle here and the skull of the crow here as well. So just regardless of whatever decan system you work with when you consider tarot, whether it's Crowley's or the original decan system or another one altogether, because there's been some new ones. Ian Daniels has kind of done his own thing. I'm feeling a very scorpionic energy from this, and yet I'm also seeing the Gemini, the lovers, right? That's Gemini's card in the tarot. I'm seeing the lovers here within the Seven of Cups. So we're seeing the lovers, the tarot, and the death card all kind of together as an energy. And what I find interesting about that is this tower isn't falling down. It almost feels like the tower card. It feels like it has the potential for the tower card in the tarot and the tower card in the Lenormand, which is a symbol of stability and strength and safety. A fortress you can rely on to go within that won't crumble down, whereas in the tarot, it's one that is crumbling down. The divine has literally stricken it down with lightning. And here we have kind of a protective symbol over top of it. So there's this potential, and it's almost like it's saying, again, it's your choice. It's your choice to focus on this truth. Whether that's literally a lover's energy, a romantic relationship in your case, or I always see the lover's card as also being related to childlike innocence, because it's a imagery in the Rider-Waite-Smith of Adam and Eve. Of course, they were like fully adult in that creation story in Genesis, but they were children to the world in the sense that they were brand new. They were just born. They were just made. And the Six of Cups, which is the same number of six as the lovers, reflects that childhood innocence as well. So the Seven of Cups comes right after that. And usually it talks about, you'll see like 7 cups with different objects in it. And it's kind of mysterious looking, but this looks like much more clarity because of this tower here. And it's right underneath the Ace of Swords. It's a different energy for the Seven of Cups than most other decks do. And it's saying that there are choices, there are options. Which way is this tower going to go? Is it going to stay firm? Are you going to pick, or even you might even be choosing between 2 different types of towers in your life? Are you picking one that's built on a shaky foundation that's bound to fall apart? Or are you picking something that has, and we're not seeing any like pentacles or anything here. This is a lot of wind energy. So a lot of the mind, a lot of stars, a lot of the divine. It looks almost like they're standing within an ocean or something, or mist. So some kind of watery energy. So emotions. He's wearing blue. She's wearing like a yellowy white tunic here. That's air and water, mind and emotions. And just barely some red with the fire here, and just a tiny, tiny bit of green for that material stability. But at the very top, at the very, very top is blue, the emotions. For the scarab beetle here, I'm seeing that this is about making a choice based on your heart, making a choice that's logical and makes sense, but is also based on what's most fulfilling for your heart. And instead of trying to guarantee that security from something that doesn't feel right from your heart, but looks like it makes sense based on so-called common sense of a very kind of toxic culture of a world, instead going within and listening to that divine guidance, having that ego death, having that rebirth within, and letting go of preconceived notions of what things should look like to be normal, or that's just the way things are done, and thinking about, okay, can I do things differently? And end up feeling more secure because I did this following the guidance of the divine, following the guidance of my heart, and listening to my own mind, my own logic, the things that I've noticed, the things I've observed, my intuition. And then going forward from there, you see like this young lady pushing this this crone, this older, wiser lady. And yet we're seeing this rebirth energy. She's passing on into the afterlife, I'm sure. And this is kind of reminding me of my grandmother. And the lady behind her is kind of like taking up that mantle. I feel like that's the story going on here. It's like once she has ascended into the next plane of existence, it's her job now to take on some of that wisdom, to consider that. And then we have this waxing moon here, and she's going to start anew. She's going to be the next in line to gain that wisdom. She's the next generation. And then we have this priestess of dreams next to the master of secrets. And I think, again, that's that mind and matter and logic mixing in with divine messages and divine inspiration coming in through the roof here. And that mixing with the knowledge she has from learning from the past. She has the book, the Torah here. And she's also, you know, the priestess is always guided by the moon. She's following her intuition. She's following her heart as well. She's looking up at the stars and she's pointing at that. She's not even looking at the book. She has it. She's read it. She knows it. She understands it. But she's looking to the stars. And he's getting that starlight, solar, whatever divine cosmic energy coming in. They're both on the same page in their own ways, even though they express it with slightly different energy. They're ultimately on the same page. She might be out in the open in the light of the stars, and he has that coming in within this kind of subconscious inner cave. But he's they're both seeing and manifesting and divining from a place of being attuned to the divine, and that matters a lot. So yeah, I think that's what this is about, is understanding deeper truths, not just being real with yourself, definitely that too, but not just like in a critical way where it's like, oh yeah, I messed up. It's like, okay, I messed up, but here's the wisdom I've learned. Here's what the divine has been trying to show me. Here's where I can go going forward. This is what this means. You know, looking at deeper truths and really being able to be both kinder to yourself, let go of some of these burdens, and also be responsible. Not like in the sense of capitulating to other people for what they think your responsibilities should be, but really doing a check-in with yourself and saying, okay, what are my responsibilities if I want to accomplish this, if I care about this, if this is the relationship I want to nurture, if this is what matters to me, what would my responsibilities be to make that work? And I think that's what is being asked of us to be honest about with ourselves. What are we really passionate about with this rose here? What really matters to us? So yeah, we're going to go ahead and go with the Lenormand cards, and then I'm going to do the Moonology, and I'm going to try to do this part a bit quicker since this video has already been fairly long. Aha, the Rider, Clover, wow, okay, I'm going to take the back paths. Okay, oh my goodness, I'm going to take all three of those. So yeah, I'm seeing this as like having the key to that inner wisdom, being able to lock any doors closed that need to be closed, ending old chapters, because they're both carrying like a scroll and a book here, as well as opening new doors, unlocking any chains that, you know, unlocking that cage even here. And I know that this is like typically a cross as in like a cemetery cross, but I'm feeling because we have like a path going up a mountain here, and then this other thing is like looking up at the horizon, and it's coming out with paths. I'm seeing this as being at a crossroads. And we were talking before about choices between having that fresh new beginning or staying stuck in this despair. And we have the stars here again. This is about divine guidance to me. Looking to the stars and looking to the signs that the divine gives us in nature and symbols to understand the world a bit better instead of just, you know, following the crowd, following society. Not that society is inherently a bad thing to have. You know, I think we're all glad we live within a civilization, but that comes with the cost of a kind of dictatorial, sometimes not healthy or helpful way of like saying this is how the world should be. That doesn't always reflect what we need personally for ourselves. And I think that's what this is about all over here, is figuring that out for ourselves, going within and making the choice at this crossroads that reflects what we really need and what we really care most about, instead of what seems like the easiest option, what seems like that's just the way things are done. You know, not listening to any of that nonsense and really just focusing on what matters most to you. And then we have Clover and then the Rider. I like how it went from 1 to 2 because that shows progression, moving forward momentum. The very thing that I was talking at the beginning of this video about how I really wanted to see forward progression. Like you get from step 1 and now you feel like you're on step 2 and then step 3 and then step 4 and then you feel like you're going forward and that things are actually leading to something actually happening, you know? And what does the Rider do? The Rider goes out on a journey. They're on a voyage. This is reminding me of the Fool energy a little bit, but a little bit different. Instead of having like going on foot and having a pack on his back on a stick, he's got, you know, more with him. The camel carries water in its hump. It got some emotional baggage. And this bird here has, you know, messages, thoughts. It represents the mind. And this tree here, this palm tree, represents resilience. You know, it's a hardy plant that can survive in the desert. And we have this large sun here, both very scorching hot and burdensome when you're in the desert, but it's important for life. You need you need the vitamin D, you need daylight, you need to have the sun. And even the hearts are on the shawl, the cloth that's covering the camel's hump here. I find that interesting. The camel is also a animal that's symbolic of the high priestess. You see that very especially in the Thoth deck. But that's true regardless of what deck you're working with. The camel is a symbol of those emotions that are carried within, that are kept in those deep subconscious depths. And it's showing up here. So I'm seeing like a mix of like the Fool and the High Priestess here. It's like moving from step 1 to step 2, right? Even though 1 is the Magician and 2 is the High Priestess, and then 0 would be the Fool in Tarot. There's no 0 in Lenormand, so it's kind of similar, different but similar. Different system, similar message. And then we have Clover. I don't know why, but I'm kind of getting like a, obviously the clover, there's like a bunch of 4-leaf clovers in here, and the clover flowers, great for immunity, great for nutrition, the clover flowers. Great as a tea, so soothing, but I'm also seeing like a mix of heart and like cup and pentacle energy going on with this clover card here, the flowers and then the 4-leaf clover. So there's some kind of material luck that I think comes about starting this new journey. Maybe it feels intimidating because you don't see it coming, but something good will come out of starting this new beginning is what I think it's saying. Because you're going to be releasing a lot of, frankly, crap from the past so that you can move forward. And then the 4 of Pentacles, the 4 leaves of the clover. So I think that maybe that wasn't an accident. So the 4 of Pentacles is about, you're at this point where you're kind of clinging very hard to something and having a hard time letting go, even if it's become toxic for you. Then the Five of Pentacles, you've kind of hit rock bottom after clinging. But you go from clinging on to things that don't matter to cleaving to somebody else who you can rely on and trust, for better, for worse, for sickness, through sickness and health, richer or poorer. You get through it. You get through this dark night of the soul. You get through this hitting rock bottom. And in some cases, you get through it together with somebody, because you get that the 5 energy of the 5th card in the major arcana, well, card number 5 in the major arcana, the Hierophant. So commitment, being committed to getting through this, being committed to working on it and coming out on the other side. And then you do come out on the other side with the 6. You can look at that as somebody giving charity, or for things finally balancing out and coming up even, depending on how you look at it. And then 7 of Cups, you start looking at the fruits of your labor coming in. And then the 8 of Cups, it's working out. You're really putting in the work. And then the 9 and 10, you're starting to see this abundance. So when you're at the 6 of Pentacles, you're beyond the halfway point, and we have 6 diamonds here. I'm seeing, almost because of the 4 clover flowers, blossoms, like a 4 of Cups energy mixed with a 6 of Pentacles type of energy. You're being offered this chance to start anew, and it might feel paltry at first compared to what you thought you were working on before, because you have to start over, right? Maybe you put in a lot of effort and you thought you were past the halfway mark with something else. But this is saying, no, you're past the halfway mark on your spiritual journey. That doesn't mean that you can't start over with this. It doesn't mean that you can't start over with the physical stuff. In fact, everything here seems to be about letting yourself start over, at least in your mind first and foremost, and seeing where you go from there. You know, acknowledging that your preconceived notions about what you think you have to do might not be what's best. And that's definitely speaking for myself. I think it speaks for other people too. I've been seeing a lot of people wanting to go in a different direction around this time of year. I think Mars retrograde also speaks to that. It's saying my modus operandi, right? The things I kind of automatically, the routines that I've gotten into, what I think I should be doing, how I operate in the world physically, how I take up space, what path I think I'm walking on. Maybe I can do things differently. And it starts with the mind consciously considering that as an option before you start to do things differently. Which is why we had Mercury retrograde before this Mars retrograde. I think it worked out really well that way for this year. Yeah, I'm gonna leave that at that. I think we're all at a crossroads, really, and it's about choosing what makes us feel more spiritually fulfilled. And we are kind of coming into this energy of, do we take that offer for a new path? Do we take that opportunity? Do we take that chance? Do we take that leap of faith with the stars and the High Priestess here? Do we take, and the Page of Swords even, do we take that leap of faith and try something new that might be scary because it's different than what we're used to, but maybe it's less burdensome, maybe it's better. Yeah, don't let pride get in your way. There you go. All right, what's going on for this transit that, you know, this cycle that started with full moon in Gemini, conjunct Mars retrograde in Gemini. Ooh, I'm going to take it. What do you need to release? No kidding with that 10 of Wands there. Okay. What's going on with this? Take time to breathe out. We're in a disseminating moon right now. I feel like that wants to come out. Bring love into the situation. I was saying that before with the way that this this showed up and the rose showing up here. There's a lot of emotion and water in this. And of course the water bearer is, and we saw a lot of new moon energy showing up in this reading. And blue moon, believe in the impossible. That's exactly what Aquarius is about. It's that 11th house energy of wishes and changes within society, changes within our social framework and our framework of what we think life has to be like, on a scale, you know, and it's the mind holding space for the emotions, holding it at a bit of a distance so you can be honest with yourself about it and not be so wrapped up in it that, you know, we have Mars retrograde so we can kind of cool the hot-headedness enough to think. That doesn't mean we don't feel that anger or hold space for it, because you do, but it's being able to analyze it, being able to look at it and still feel it as well. Aquarius isn't an unfeeling sign. It is a sign that knows how to feel and hold space for those feelings and pour out those emotions when necessary. It knows how to collect it, knows how to look at it, knows how to hold it from a distance and pour it out, release when you need to. Yeah, I think that's where we're at right now. We're at that point in time where a lot of us are considering, okay, maybe what resentments, what feelings of fear, obligation have I been holding on to? Maybe even like I put so much time into this job, for example, and this boss is treating me like crap, but I don't want to walk away now because I've been very slowly moving up the company ladder. Even though you get this imposing sense that they never intend to let you be part of, I don't know, the company board or something. I'm giving a very corporate example. Plenty of people who will be watching this don't even work for a corporation, but or if you do, you do so in like maybe a independent contracting way where this isn't relevant for you, but it's just one example. Maybe you have a family business where you feel like you're not the child out of all of your siblings who's going to be handed the family business, and you're wondering now, like, okay, what am I putting in all of this for? That doesn't mean you don't love or care about the people. It doesn't mean that it wasn't an important experience of your life or you didn't gain important knowledge, but something's got to give. We're seeing people at a crossroads saying something isn't fulfilling here. Something feels like a burden. Something feels like it's not. You know what? We don't see the 10 of Cups or the 10 of Pentacles here. We see the 10 of Wands. Something feels like a burden. And that feeling of being burdened and holding yourself back with your thoughts and feeling stuck, like I have to keep trying with this one thing because that's the thing I thought was going to work. Well, it's standing in the way of this. Don't you want this instead of this and this? I do, you know, so that's something to consider. I think that's where a lot of people are at. They want to, or maybe you're at a job where the job's going really well and you don't want to change your position or even change your job, but you want to work less hours because even though you've got this raging war going on in Europe and terrible price gouging, frankly, as well as inflation going on, you know, you're thinking, oh, I've got to work hard so I can provide for my family, but you're not getting to spend time with that family. And maybe you've got young kids and it's like, these years, I'm never going to get them back. And you got to sit back and think, okay, yes, I need to work hard and provide for the family. Yes, we're in tough times. Yes, I've got to prepare for that. Yes, I've got to make sure I've got the resources I need. What else can I do? Who can I seek for help? Are there family members who can watch my kids during this time? Are there people who can I do a few less hours and you say like, hey, I've been working for this company for 5, 6, 10 years, or I've been working for this company for this long, but I've accomplished all this. I did this for you. I got these results for you. Maybe I need more time to do this. I need to be with my family. You know, what is it that's burdening you? Is it that you're not having enough time with your family? Something standing in the way of a relationship? You're not getting the results you wanted with work. You're not getting to have the recognition you think you deserve, or the benefits that you've needed, or you haven't been able to complete projects that you care about because you've been focusing on other people's stuff. What is it that's standing in the way of what would make you feel happy? And can you change that? Is it possible? Even if it takes a lot of work and a lot of starting over, is it worth it? You know, that's the question. That's something to at least just start getting honest with yourself and thinking about and considering, at the least. I think that's what people are doing with this Mars in retrograde. I think that's what Gemini is about here. It's about this this feeling of wanting to manifest the things that make us happy. That lover's energy, that going back to our own beginnings in a way, our own roots, and saying, okay, what is it that at my core, if I let go of the expectations of what other people think I should want to make me happy, what would actually make me happy? And going after that. That's what I think this is about. And that was a bit of a long reading. I might be doing another reading for the winter solstice and then calling it the end of season 2 of Azure Flame Tarot. Thank you guys for being with me and watching this. And I hope you have a very happy holidays.